So if the financials of the transfer fee and his salary package worked out, he wanted to make the move, and he did manage to stay relatively injury-free throughout the rest of the campaign, do I think it's worth Manchester United cashing in on Kobbie Mainoo in order to fund a move for Eduardo Camavinga? Well, my answer would be yes, and that isn't dependent on Amorim staying and using that 3-4-3 system, as I would also look to make this move even with other systems that suit Kobbie Mainoo better. And I have three main reasons for this. The first reason is that Eduardo Camavinga, like Carlos Baleba, specialises in a combination of highly valuable attributes that make him incredibly unique in the modern game. The second reason is that because of Kobbie Mainoo's stagnation over the past season, which I explain in a video that may or may not be out. If it is, I'll leave it linked in the description below. I think at this point in time, Eduardo Camavinga would be a significant upgrade on Kobbie Mainoo, and when I statistically compare both players from last season, you'll be able to see just how significant the output difference is between the two players. And thirdly, I think just switching Camavinga for Mainoo and Casemiro in the United squad would significantly improve the stylistic balance of the United midfield, not only working to get the best out of Bruno Fernandes, but potentially working very well alongside Mason Mount and Manuel Ugarte as well. But before I get into that, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to okjersey.com. They've got the new Manchester United releases for the upcoming season, with OK Jersey also allowing you to pick up high quality football shirts from just £15, plus free shipping across Europe for all orders over £45. They sent me over these new release alternative Manchester United jerseys from this season, as well as a long sleeved retro home shirt from the 92-93 season, with Cantona 7 on the back, alongside this Nuno Gomes Benfica shirt from the 97-98 season as well. If you use code ATLANTIS at checkout, you'll get a discount, so I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comment section below. So why exactly do I think Camavinga would be a significant upgrade on Kobbie Mainoo, perhaps worth an additional £15 to £20 million? Well, even though it may be obvious considering Kobbie Mainoo doesn't really suit the midfield double pivot in Amorim's system, considering that we aren't making transfers for one particular manager or one particular system, this is still a deal that I would do, as I think Camavinga's skill set is more valuable in the modern game, particularly in the Premier League, and is harder to find an alternative for. And this is because, like Baleba, Camavinga specialises in a combination of high value attributes, and those are his ball winning ability, press resistance under pressure, and his explosive ball carrying ability. And at least statistically anyway, it's his ball winning ability which is his standout attribute, and we can see this here if we look at his data MB circle chart for key defensive metrics domestically from last season. When compared against all other central midfielders in the top 7 leagues, he ranks in the top 1% for his interceptions adjusted for possession, but quite astonishingly considering he plays for Real Madrid, he ranks in the top 2% for possessions won. He also sits in the 82nd percentile for the volume of aerial and defensive duels he's won, as well as around the 70th percentile for the percentage of defensive and aerial duels he's won, showing that Camavinga is not just a high volume ball winner, but also a highly efficient one as well. And this ball winning ability makes Camavinga highly effective at sustaining pressure in the opposition's half, but also preventing opposition attacks as well. In the counter press after a turnover high up the pitch, he possesses a high level ability to anticipate the game, as well as the acceleration across shorter distances to push up into areas where he thinks a pass is going to be played, whilst also then having a composed but firm standing tackling technique, enabling him to win possession via interceptions or tackles in dangerous areas. But this ball winning ability is just as, if not more valuable in the rest defence, as like Baleba he's able to use his reading of the game in combination with his pace over longer distances, physicality in duels, and his slide tackling technique to shuttle across to the flanks or move to engage players in central areas, to then defend incredibly astutely in open space, looking to stop counter-attacks before they progress the ball into the defensive third. Now in the build-up phase, whether he's on the edge of his own box or slightly further up towards the edge of the middle third, Kamovinga aesthetically isn't as nimble or subtle as someone like Adam Walton, but he's still highly efficient with retaining and circulating the ball, as seen by the fact that he ranks in the 90th percentile for both the volume of short passes he completes, as well as the percentage, with his long passing metrics ranking slightly lower, but still well above the median. His dribbles completed in success rate alongside his ball carrying frequency all ranking in the 70th to 80th percentile range, which alongside his progressive carries ranking in the 91st percentile, shows how effective Kamovinga is as a ball progressor with the ball at his feet. Combine this with his technical competence under pressure, composure, and the explosiveness he has when turning away from a pressing player to then accelerate into the open space, and you can start to see the clear comparisons with Carlos Baleba. But like Baleba, Kamavinga's overall ball progression is heavily reliant on his ball carrying ability, at least at this point in his career, as even though he does sit in the top 25 to 30% for his passes into the final third, his progressive passes are significantly lower, particularly when adjusted for possession. And the statistical analysis alongside the eye test does back up the description of Kamovinga being more of a ball-carrying ball winner, specialising in transitional situations, either in possession, driving through the space in the centre of the pitch, or without the ball, breaking up opposition attacks or getting to loose or second balls. Now he does have the ability to break lines via these incisive passes threaded between the lines centrally, but because he isn't a high volume progressive passer, I think you want him partnered with more of a progressive passing playmaker who can provide the system with that from those deeper areas, who can instead wield greater responsibility for ball progression against deeper and more compact defensive shapes, with Kamovinga instead focusing more on keeping the tempo high and the opposition moving with simpler horizontal passes. Although saying this, his long passing range is a significant ball progressing weapon, enabling him to change the point of attack from one side to the other, which can be a particularly valuable asset to have when looking to create out wide, via 1v1 isolations against the opposition fullbacks, or through the use of double width, looking to create 2v1 overloads and work crossing positions through under and overlapping runs. And I did cover the concept of double width in my Iraola analysis video, so I'll leave that linked in the description and in the eye-bar for you to check out after this video. And so from a stylistic point of view, I think Kante in Seedorf is a pretty accurate description of Kamavinga's profile, essentially being the water carrier of the midfield just as Seedorf and Kante were in multiple different systems. Tactically, I think he'd be perfect to play either in a midfield 2 or a midfield 3 with Bruno Fernandes and either Mason Mount or Manuel Ugarte, and even Kobbie Mainoo if he wasn't sold to facilitate the Kamovinga deal. Now in a midfield double pivot with Bruno Fernandes either in Amorim's 3-4-3 or maybe in more of a 4-2-3-1, Kamavinga's ability to cover shorter and longer distances at speed would definitely be more effective at stopping United getting played through the centre of the pitch when looking to trigger press from the middle third or when pressing aggressively from the opposition's build-up phase in comparison to what Casemiro can currently offer. However, it should be said that simply inserting Kamavinga in place of Casemiro is not going to be able to completely make up for tactical issues within the pressing system, which leads to overloading situations that he and Bruno would still face and struggle with if they were pressing in a system like Amorim's current one that leaves them isolated against 3v2s consistently throughout a match. But having a player like Kamavinga would certainly limit the amount of times that United do get played through, even in these type of tactical setups. I think a midfield 3 of Kamovinga alongside Bruno Fernandes and either Ugarte or Mount is perfectly balanced, but it would also work well if United were to bring in a hyper-offensive left wing-back such as Federico Di Marco, who has recently been linked with United with his contract expiring at Inter in 2027, and I am working on a video to analyse him, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and give this video a like so you are likely to get it recommended when it does come out. And with someone like Di Marco playing as a left-back in a back 4, this would then enable Cunha to be used from the left side, but rather than holding a wider position on the outside of the fullback as either Mbeumo or Ahmad would do on the other side, Di Marco behind him can be given the responsibility of holding the width in the system, being given the licence to push forward aggressively on the overlap, providing the necessary balance for Cunha to then drift infield between the lines. Whereas Kamavinga, as I previously stated, is optimal for then sitting behind the ball in the rest defence, covering that left-sided channel even more so now, having been used as a out-and-out left-back for a sustained period of time at Real Madrid by Ancelotti, enabling him to pretty comfortably slot into that position if Di Marco is caught high up the pitch, or even just to facilitate positional fluidity within the system via player rotations on that left side. And so overall, whilst if I was Real Madrid, I wouldn't be selling Kamovinga, let alone for between 60 to 70 million pounds. As factoring out injuries, I would value Eduardo Camavinga at around the same price as Carlos Baleba, which is between about 80 to 85 million pounds. And so considering Carlos Baleba was massively overvalued in the summer and maybe next summer as well, if United could get Eduardo Camavinga through selling Kobbie Mainoo, I definitely think it's a deal that United should do, even though I do think it's unlikely. So let me know what you think of essentially swapping Kobbie Mainoo for Eduardo Camavinga, and would you prefer Camavinga to Baleba? And if you do want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to okjersey.com. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a 10% discount. I'll leave a link in the description and in the comments section below.